What I used to like to do was live up here that I built
Ladies and gentlemen, this diesel engine oil shortage that is looming is being picked up by other YouTubers or other bloggers like SHTF Plan. I do believe that this is where Michael Snyder is from. Mr. Snyder was a
That's your fault. Let's see.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Sensei Al Bob here at Dreamy Dreamland. I am your Sensei Al Bob, your griot to tell you a story. And here we are. It is July 2nd, Saturday. And I'm trying to get CNN because we're being played, you know. Whether you watch
Wait.
Actually, the mark I've got on all for Lisa. Lisa didn't want it. So
CNN just recently
Showing results for CNN.
CNN, America's view on America's government here on 4th of July.
Showing results for CNN, America's view on America's government here on 4th of July.
Well, it's not giving what I want. Let's see what this is.
And welcome back, everyone, and welcome to the beautiful city of St. Louis. You see the arch right there in the center of your screen. This is CNN's 4th in America. We are witnessing this video. Beantown is bringing back the fireworks. I want you to watch and listen to Chicago Youth Symphony Orchestra and the Austin Symphony Orchestra. They're playing your favorite hits from composer John Williams.
Yep. CNN view on American political views.
Showing results for CNN view American political views.
Did you ever live or serve at Camp Lejeune and later develop cancer, Parkinson's, or another serious illness? If you were at Camp Lejeune at any time...
The 4th of July is supposed to be an all-American and all-Americans celebration. But some new polling we'll share with you right now offers some fascinating and, yes, some troubling insights on our nation's deeply polarized political divide. Get this, a majority of Americans see their government as corrupt and rigged against them. Nearly half of Americans say they feel more and more like a stranger in their own country. And look at this. Nearly 3 in 10 Americans overall agree it may be necessary at some point soon for citizens to take up arms against the government. 45% of those who describe themselves as strong Republicans feel that way. 35% of independents do. And 21% of strong Democrats say, yes, it may be necessary soon to take up arms against their government. This poll was conducted for the University of Chicago Institute of Politics. Two of the best.
First of all, our government is people like their mailman, right? People like the serviceman who protects us, the person who is at the Social Security office. This is your government, not the morons in Congress. You know, we have our legislatures are the best money can buy. And Donald Trump promised that he would pack the Supreme Court with right-wing, neo-religious zealots. We got what you voted for. You know, post-apocalyptic de-evolutionary Devo stories and films like The Hunger Games, Brave New World, 1984, Handmaid's Tale. These are all entities, corporate projections of things to come. They do not have to be. We do not have to go down that road. I have been working on my ex-ratted novel series, and anyone who wants to read it can go to my dudeawake42@gmail. Right? And I kind of figured out what PayPal was going on about, and that is all of you who have sent me something, I really appreciate it. They view it as you're paying for service. Ergo, I'm a business. Ergo, it needs to be taxed. No. I am not charging you anything for this. What you send me is a gift, right? Because if I was, I try to get amortized or monetized or whatever you call it. And, not. My mentor, my master, always told me that I cannot charge for what I do, but I can take a gratuity, right? So that's where I'm at with you guys, So whenever you send me something on PayPal, say it is a gift to a friend, not a payment for a service, because then they're going to come after me with the IRS for like $120, And my yearly income on Social Security is around $8,000 a year. I am like 5,000% below poverty level. Right now, I have a number of friends who are really annoyed because they're very rich when I say I live like a millionaire on $400 a month. They really get upset with that, right? Because they had to work so hard in the corporate world to, as a lawyer or an executive or some. And it was sad because half the people who get upset with me are women. So I want to show you something. So by the time 2011 came around, I had been working in the corporate world for, it started around 2004, so that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, so that's 7 years. 7 years. And by that time, I went from around 240 to about 390. Anyway, so,
You mean the train over here?
and I was taking care of my parents until 2008 when my dad lost 80% of his net worth. 2006, I sold everything I had, all my stock, all my everything, and I basically just lived. I took that and I bought, 3 things. I bought a deep green, a school, and my Floridian. Well, I bought my Floridian. I cut my Floridian, and all those things I bought before, but those are 3 things I kept: deep green, the school, and my Floridian sites. So anyway, and I spent my time being a social activist of sorts, right? Because it was more about spirituality, more about being there amongst the folk. So I had a really good friend. His name was Will I Am, and his buddy, who had worked for Disney and then worked for a company that kind of was owned by Disney, in that they were a service entity, and what they did was they facilitated shows, like rock and roll shows, you name it, kind of shows. He was the guy in charge of getting all the stuff together, putting it on tractor trailers, and sending them off on the show. So his background was in IT, and that was Eric, right? And he met Will I Am at a show that Will did at the Hard Rock Cafe in Florida. Anyway, I had been involved in Florida with the New Age community because I had a friend of mine, and her name was Gangaji, right? And back in the day when I knew her, I met her in West Virginia, and her name was Tammy, and she was a waitress at a Highway 8 Ball. And
Yes, Barbara.
And,
Hey, how are you? See, there's somebody. Yes, there you go. Golly, how are you? Benjamin. How are you?
so, and Tammy was a great waitress and a great connector, and she just loved me. And I would pretty much every weekend drive from New York City to Morgantown, West Virginia, where I had a girlfriend who was a DJ on Morgantown College Radio. And the interstate that I went up to Morgantown, this 8 ball was right up the interstate, and it was about an hour or so from Morgantown. And every truck stop diner, and it was a truck stop place, and everywhere you basically
maybe Bill's funeral.
they had phones at every table, right? Truckers needed to call. This is before cell phones, right? So this is like in the When was that? 74 or 5. And then this is when I ran the theater department at Newark College of Engineering, where my ID served as my driver's license. And it said Dr. Al Bob. Right? And so every time I got stopped by police, I would hand them, and I'd be driving in a car that was the state of New Jersey, who ran the Newark College of Engineering. My boss said to me, "Do you know how to drive?" He should have said, "Do you have a legal driver's license?" But he didn't. He said, "Do you know how to drive?" So, "Oh, sure, I know how to drive." And so I was given 2 vehicles from my department: a big pickup truck with a hydraulic lift, and a car, very nice car. So the first semester at Newark College in Engineering, I did all kinds of things, trying to. But this was engineering school. We did not need a theater department, right? And it was basically somebody's political place, right? Thing probably cost $20 million. It was a great theater. It was great facilities, right? Classrooms, shops. I could teach everything, but I didn't have a single student. I was budgeted to have 4 teachers, right? I offered a syllabus. No one signed up. I went down to the lady who ran bookkeeping, who printed out the checks. I said, "So, I am budgeted this amount. I'm teaching all the courses. Here, look at my syllabus. My name is on all of them. So I'm going to pay myself all of that." She says, "Fine." And she goes, "Well, we can give you an account in our state credit union. And we'll just put that money straight in there. And we'll give you, we have this new thing, it's called a debit card. This is in the 70s. It's not a credit card, but it acts like one. So if you go to a restaurant or a hotel on page plastic, we'll be able to do this. It's covered by MasterCard." I said, "Oh, great. Sounds good." So my 4 teachers and me, joint salary for a week was $2,500. So I got that in my checking account every week, and I did nothing, right? Plus, they gave me $30,000 to build a, for lumber and stuff for sets, right? And also, I had 3 janitorial fix-it guys, and it's a brand new building. So anyway, first semester, like I said, I had all these classes, had a syllabus. No one showed up. I built with that money on top of the roof of the theater, the Playboy recreational picture of the Playboy grotto up on the roof. And right across the street, Newark College of Engineering was on College Avenue. And across the street was Newark High School, and down the hill was Rutgers. I had these big binoculars, and I would look around, and I would go over, and I spent more time at Rutgers than I did at Newark College of Engineering. And my grotto also had a nice little apartment on the roof because it had a nice view straight down into the river, right? And then into the Hudson, and then into the Atlantic. And it was really a beautiful sight. It's like one of the higher points of Newark. Anyway, so, and the amazing thing, I had an apartment in the West Village, and just around the corner from my apartment was the PATH train. And I could take that PATH train for a dime and go to Newark, and it would, let me off 2 blocks from Newark College. And so instead of taking the New Jersey Central or a bus, which would take me hours to get to there. I took PATH train, right? Time, right? And so it was. Whoops.
Locally famous chicken and dumplings for our special tomorrow.
Woo!
We usually sell out. They're so good.
Right.
What time do you think about tomorrow? We're open every day, unless something happens from 7 a.m. before. That's what we're 7 even tomorrow on Sunday.
So.
Yes. Mondays only never want to close a little early for the.
So my fall semester, I really did nothing except party up in the grotto. Right? And I told all my friends in New York, and they would get on the PATH train and come straight to it. And we'd have these wild parties at the grotto, and students and teachers from the college down below would come up. So it was quite the, that's why I got the nomenclature of art party ringleader, cultural provocateur, right? Minister of fun. And because if it ain't fun, it's not worth doing. Except fun can be a distraction, right, from where you're supposed to be. So I have taught a number of my adepts. I've ordained them as ministers of fun, but then they had to find their own nom de plume. So I took that car when winter, so we, had our fall semester, and for Christmas it closed down, and then I took off down south first to see my folks, and this is in '74. They've always had a house down in Florida, and they had one in Pompano Beach. And so I went down there and saw them, and they said, "Oh, you got a cool loco." I showed them my ID, doctor. Oh, Bob. And anyway, and my mom was so proud, So then and my dad said, "You don't even have a college degree. How are you a double doctor?" I said, "Never question God's will, Dad." So, I went down to the Keys. I went down to, then went up to the Panhandle, and then went to Mississippi, went to Louisiana, and visited Lester. He had a great place right on the, French Quarter. And then I went to Texas, and then I went to Arizona, and then Nevada, and then California, and then up to Washington, and to Seattle, went up along the Canadian coast, and it was so easy. You could just drive over, And they looked at my license and said, "Oh, doctor." I was, when I was in Nevada, I was probably doing 120 because it was out there in the middle of nowhere, and there's nobody, and I zipped past this, poster, and a cop was hiding back there, and he came zipping up, and then he, I saw him coming, as soon as I passed him, I saw him, so I slowed down and pulled over the side and got out, and, was, fanning myself when he showed up, and he got out, and he came over and said, "Sir, do you know how fast I was going?" "That's probably too fast, officer, but there's nobody here, and I'm trying to get from here to there." So let me see your drive. Showed that, and then I showed him my registration that showed the car was registered to New College of Engineering. Then I had legal authority to be driving it. And he said, "So where are you going, doctor?" I said, "Well, I have to have an operation in California. I'm proceeding to do an operation there." He said, "Oh, you're on a time-sensitive." Yes, that's right, officer. I said, "Well, doctor, just, slow down a little bit." I said, "Well, thank you, officer." Right? So I didn't even have a driver's license, and I showed it. Right? I showed him my ID, and it had this, state logo on the side of the car, state license plate, my doctor photo ID for Newark College of Engineering had, the state logo on it, and so I was let go of any responsibility. My whole life, I've been, that little feather in Forrest Gump. That's me. I'm not Forrest Gump per se, but I am that feather in the Forrest Gump worldview. So years later, 2011, I've been working for the corporate world, made a lot of money, bought a lot of stuff, had a lot of material things, a lot of stuff. I had a lot of real estate, between, when did I start making money? Around 2000. And just, before maybe 98. Yes, 98. Because I started working for these entities that were private corporations that did the work, the study, the research of the federal government, because then people couldn't go after that information with the Freedom of Information Act. So I worked for people like Brookings, and the Council for Foreign Relations, and entities like that. BBI, Bureau of Behavioral Investigation, right? Which I have no idea what they call themselves now, but they were far better than the Tavistock Institute. Their roots came from the Tavistock Institute, right? And we're just going to jump right into this, because this, what we were watching, represents that whole corporate fascist world and what they're making us believe.
Best in the business, you see them right there. Republican Neil Newhouse and Democrat Joel Benenson collaborated on this project. They are with us live now. Neil, I want to start with you, because the most alarming number in that it may be necessary to take up arms, the entire number is alarming. 28% of Americans overall, but 45% of people who identify as strong Republicans, nearly half of people who identify as strong Republicans, say it may be necessary to take up arms against their own government. Where does that come from?
Well, I mean, these are stunning results. I mean, they really are. When Joel and I embarked on this, and we could put together the questionnaire, we knew the mood of the country was not positive, but it is so much worse than we thought it was. And so you look at that question on taking up arms against the government. It's 45% of strong Republicans, but John, it's 33% of NPR listeners, 26% of very liberals, 37% of those with guns in their households. It really demonstrates the extraordinary polarization in the country right now, and there's a pandemic of mistrust between Americans and their government and their media.
And so, Joel, I was reading this and thinking about the disaffection we saw going back to the Perot campaign in 1992, where people thought the government didn't get them. Didn't understand globalization. These findings seem to tell me people think the government is out to get them. Doesn't just understand them, but is somehow after them. The government is corrupt and rigged against people like me. 66% of Republicans agree with that. 46% of Democrats. I generally trust our elections to be conducted fairly and accurately counted. 56% of Americans agree with that, but 4 in 10 Americans overall disagree with that. And you see among Republicans, 62%, 41%.
Well, first of all, I come from the school of George Carlin, right? And
Would you like any of this?
Panhandle. Well, when I was a teenage boy riding the rails and hitchhiking across America in the early and mid 60s, yes, I did that. Right now, maybe, but I haven't gotten there yet. And I wouldn't want to take that money out of the hands of the people who really need it. I have a place to live, out in the middle of the woods. I have a nice garden. It's really kicking right now. And I constantly, and that's not what I'm supposed to be doing with my time. This is what I'm supposed to be doing with my time. In 2011, in December, just before 2012. I and a group of folk that I knew in Florida had a New Age revival, and the person who put this together was this young lady right here,
Oh, yes, please, for me.
and she was a queen from the mountains of Puerto Rico, right? And she had her mother was a spiritual princess, and that's her mom. That's her mom, who's in her 50s, and this is her daughter, who's in her 30s. And we met at a antediluvian bookshop in Florida, near Pompano Beach, and she just loved the heck out of me. Right? And this girl was super everything, right? She was a princess. She was a spiritual, and this was, this was like the old crone, but Hispanic, right? And she came from up in the mountains of Puerto Rico, and so she was truly indigenous, right? And her father was Spanish, Castilian, and so.
Can I get you anything?
Yeah, a little more
More
coffee.
coffee?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Yep.
Be right back.
And so this was, we were always attached at the hip. She just loved the heck out of me. So I don't think I need to panhandle at this moment, right? So we put together this, and this, my friend Will I Am, he wanted to do this, and his buddy and roommate Eric, who worked putting together rock and roll shows. She and her mother and a few other people got the word out to the alternative crowd, and here they showed up. Thank you, darling.
Can I get this out of the way?
No, I'm still dunking and
No worries.
and so Will tried to bring all these really highfalutin folk, and they came and left. But this guy, he was, from India, and he was a monk, right, of the same order as Thomas Merton, right? And he had translated all Merton's work into Hindu. Now, these boys were gangbangers that, as we pulled in, we got this was done in a park in the middle of Miami. It had its own lake, and it was unbelievably beautiful, but it was totally paranormal doorways. I mean, things and creatures were walking in and out, and nobody went there. And Eric and I, found this place on the internet. It's state run, and it was like you could rent it $22 a day because nobody wanted to. And it had an amazing kitchen and dining hall and other really grand facilities. And look how beautiful that was. So, and this is right in the middle of the hood. So we pulled in and we started setting up, and they were scoping us out. So I went straight over to them. I said, "So, where's your OG?" And they said, and so the OG I saw, over in this store that he owned, watching us, and so he sent these young men to check us out. And so I went over to the OG and said, "Listen, this is a spiritual event. It's very Christian, very much something that could help you. So let us not be the victims of your says plan. Why don't you let those two guys be my security, and I'll pay you $500. He said, "Yeah, and pay them $200 each." I said, "No problem." So, paying $900 was a lot cheaper than getting everyone cars stolen, right? So these guys, and they were spiritually ready for it, and what they saw and what happened to them blew their frigging minds. And this is all during us having, this was in the middle of Barack Obama's surge, And this guy, he was Disney's one of their main IT guys. And through Eric, he got, he came and he put this whole thing on the internet and, set up a web page and put it all there. And these guys were from Miami, and they were amazing yoga folk, right? And like these guys are in their 40s, right? And they had been party animals and in the 60s, like club kids, right? And I met this girl in New York as a club girl, right? Back in the day. And then I met her in the New Age crowd. And so here is a girl whose father invented the bubble-on. And the bubble-on is this thing that makes gigantic bubbles, right? And he's a rainbow guy, and I've known him for years from rainbow gatherings, right? And so she could put a bubble around people. It was truly amazing. Right? And so here is my sweetie's mother and her sweetheart. And they just adopted these two boys because these girls like the men thing. They just enjoyed each other's company more. So these two guys couldn't believe what they got themselves into. These two mamas taking care of them, and they stayed in their camp. And here we are doing ceremony and being the pebble in the lake of love, right? Right? Because what happened was, Will can be a little headstrong because he's famous and cool. And so, Eric and I found this place. Eric went online and kind of made a reservation, and Will, through the Disney guy, put himself all over the website, and people were signing up because of him, right? And but they weren't the spiritual nature, right? And so we got a nice big chunk of change that first month, and I'm, one day, when things were happening in Iraq and Afghanistan in 2011. I said, we have to stop this. We have to put out an energetic force of peace and love, an alternative aesthetic to this war view, right? And that's what this event was, right? An alternative aesthetic, right? And so here we are. So Will basically, he had seen this scene where he wanted to lecture to the people like Jesus, and he wanted to have a tent, right? Like a revival tent, right? Well, in the state thing, it said you can't have one of those. You can have a separate structure. And so because it had an amazing place outdoors, it was an amphitheater. And it had trees all around it. It wasn't like you're going to get baked. I mean, well, look at this place. I mean, it was just unbelievably gorgeous, right? And so she was talking to the spirits, right? Because the spirits were like ready to eat these people alive, and that's why we were doing ceremony here, right? So she was Celtic Irish all the way. She came from Ireland, and she was the daughter of a crone. And this lady was, a woman of the woods from Puerto Rico, a queen. Right? So here are the kind of rich, elite kind of folk trying to control the situation. And it was falling apart because the state. So here's Eric. And Eric was tripping the whole time he was there. Instead of being clear-headed, and but he's a sweet guy. So he kind of set it all up. And, he had this business where he had these trucks and all this equipment. So he had the video and the sound and everything he needed he had, and he had lined it up, and he, because he has these trucks, he thought he'd have a truck. Well, they had, we did it one night on the internet. That Disney guy was there, and we were pumping away, and we put together a web page and put Will all over it. And then I left to do other things. I had a gig with some lawyer, so I went and did that. I came back about 3 weeks, about 6 days, 5 days before the event, right? And it was the end of the month, and I said, so, and I had this checkoff list, need this, right? And so we had a permit to do it. We had, paid the state to rent a thing for 5 days. We had everything. We did not have a truck. So he thought he'd had a truck of his own, but no, they had shows and stuff. Every truck that they had was gone. So he goes, I don't know how we're going to do this because I can't get a truck. And he had this list in the yellow pages of all the rental trucks, right? And he said, I just called them all. They don't. It's the end of the month. Everyone's moving. They don't have a single truck. I said, okay, no problem. So I put my hand on it. I meditated, and then I said, okay, everyone, put your hand on my hand and say, Tony, come along. Something's lost. Got to be fine. Let's find a truck. And then I went, whoop, bing. And I said, Eric, go ahead, dial that number. He dials it up. I go, hi there. I'm looking for a 27-foot box truck with a hydraulic lift. He goes, yep. Wow, you're lucky. Some guy just canceled his thing. Yes, we got it. And I said, okay, Eric, give this man your credit card number. Did. We got it. We filled it up. We drove over. And the whole thing was like that, right? So, so this guy was truly an amazing guy. So he had gone to seminary school, and he was going to be a Protestant minister, and then 9/11 came, and he joined the military. This is just like my friend JC, and he got blown up and everything. And when he was dying out there in Afghanistan in the field, a Muslim man picked him up, and dragged him over out of harm's way, and said, "You need to be a rabbi." And then disappeared. And his people found him, helicoptered him out of there, patched him back together, and he was so, they didn't expect him to live, so they gave him honorable discharge. And he went off and became a rabbi. Then he became a mullah. So he was a Protestant minister, rabbi, and a mullah. And that's his friend here, who was at the UN, who was Thomas Merton's friend in those days when he was a young man, studying theology, and Merton was his mentor, and he translated all of Merton's work into Hindi. And so again, here's another New Age clown who, he just couldn't understand, these two. This lady who's a shaman, this lady who's a crone, and this guy who had nothing except I'm an ordained, I'm what do you call it? A certified, I do a Reiki. I'm a Reiki master. And she just laughed, right? And this woman was quite an amazing person. Where is she? Yes, this one right here. She was a doctor who had been studying paranormal research like forever, right? And she scientifically studied everything, Reiki, projection, you name it, right? And so slowly, here's another New Age guy. He said he was a New Age, press, and he was just tripping his balls off. And he was trying to hit on every girl, right? So, and most of these girls were like not really interested. Here he is, like they're not really even looking at him, right? So, And this girl was quite interesting. So we had not Eric, Will had got this guy who said he was a vegan. He had a vegan restaurant, and that he, um, basically, wanted, so he had a really nice, beautiful kitchen, and he got there, and he had no tools. He had no food. Will had given him $1,000, and the guy goes, "I want $5,000 to go buy food." Right? And I said, "Well, where'd you find this guy?" "Well, a friend of a friend. This is really great." And I said, "Well, just like the other people you brought here." So, so this girl here popped up and said her father had a Hispanic vegan restaurant just around the corner in the hood. And the boy said, "Oh yeah, that guy's food's really great." So she went up and got her dad. Where is he? There's a picture of him.
He was like looking over. Come over there.
So here's a morning when we were looking for the truck, and we just got it, and Eric again is pretty tripped out, and this is another friend who's going to help us move, and here we are at the U-Haul truck, right? Here's a lady who had the restaurant. This is the mother of that girl, and she came and did it for free because we were in her neighborhood doing a spiritual thing that she identified, and she hooked up with my girlfriend's mother and her girlfriend, and just were like in seventh heaven. And that's when we had the grandma's council, and so Eric and Will basically had driven this whole thing in the ditch, and here. So this is Will's dream of a tent revival. Again, here's Eric tripping out. I mean, Eric was a sweet guy, and he had his shit together in his little niche, right? And anyway, it was this weekend, and the guy who was in charge of the park, here's the food. Look at that food. And that lady did it for free. And then after, the second, third meal, when we were having these groups of spiritual enlightenment, I passed the bucket and immediately raised $4,000. And Eric said, "We got to keep that money." I said, No. This is going to the lady who's making all this food. And she's doing it for free. No. Because, and Will said, "No, we have to keep the money." And I said, "No." So it turned out that everyone volunteered. So all of the people that Will got, all the notorieties of the New Age crowd in Florida, where you don't have a hotel room for us, well, we're going, and we just had the greatest of times, and so the last of the Mohicans, of the guys who left, So look at the difference between that guy who was one of Will's friends and one of the people who just showed up, who saw it on the internet, paid his few dollars to come to the event, and was just so happy to be there. And he had in himself, he had a reading ability. And so everybody was doing everything for free. So here is, the only, we had one thing under the tent before this guy showed up with police and said, I'm closing this down. I said, excuse me? I said, we have the permit, we have the this. I said, but you have that tent. You have to take it down. And so Eric and Will got in their face and, gave, well, you don't know who we are, blah, 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 blah. And the guy says, I don't care. I got the cops here. We're going to arrest you and take you away. So I sent the ladies in to talk to them. And we basically negotiated. I was there, just there. And the women were like soothing everything down. And, they got the cops and everyone to back down. And the one cop basically said to me, I really love what you're doing, because he saw these guys. And he said they are part of a gang from El Salvador, and they're moving in here, and they're paramilitary. I said, yeah, they're down. I said, so you're military, when were you serving? So in the 80s, and I said, so did you serve in Central? Because he was Hispanic. So I said, did you serve in Central? Serve in Nicaragua, serve in El Salvador, Honduras, Chile, any of those countries? And he goes, yeah, all of them. I said, so what did you do? We kill people. I said, so where do you think this gang came from? It was straight from the CIA playbook, right? So anyway, so he was all down that we had the OGs from that killer gang and these guys, like, sweetened up, and he said, this is really great. And so luckily he was the authority of the police. And I said, listen, I'm going to have this tent taken down immediately, this second. And because we have this beautiful amphitheater. So here's the amphitheater right here. It was a beautiful thing. And it was sacred, right? And this was all, so here is my sweetie's mom. And she just mesmerized everyone, right? And she got the kids playing drums. She was a great drummer, right? And so, and this was the young lady, the daughter of the mother who did the food for free, And there's me, right? And I'm basically 420 pounds in this picture. Right? I'm bigger than the other guy. So this was the last guy of Will's, and he was supposed to be a shaman. And what he was doing, he was taking people's crystals, putting them on a metal, a big chunk of steel, and then putting a thing over them and smashing them with a sledgehammer into dust, saying that was a ceremony, releasing the energy of the crystals, blah, blah, blah. And, it was like he was sick, right? And you could see these Toltecs and other ancient indigenous folk from that neck of the woods come, and they basically picked him up and took him, and he was like Bear Rabbit, threw him into the briar patch, and he just, he crawled out, got in his car, and drove away. And that was the last of Will's, foe. So here is, and this guy was great. So this woman was an indigenous shaman, and this was her husband, and he was Celtic. And he had lived with her. He was an anthropologist, and so was she. And they met in school, and they went into South America and lived with folk that most white people didn't connect to. And she went through a shamanic change and went from an anthropologist into a shamanic, shaman. And so I'm not, a shaman. I am your Sensei Al Bob, a griot who tells you stories. But this lady, she could, between his drums and her spirit, she made everyone feel the drum in their soul, in their spirit, in their heart. And it was truly amazing, right? So, we've been at it for 55 minutes and 25 seconds. Lynn C. Likes it, showing pictures. You see, this woman is looking at the charlatan. The shamanic princess is looking at this guy. Look how she's looking at him. And she saw the shamanic energy swirling around him to take him out. And it just was amazing, right? So here is the IT guy. So I was heavier than this guy, and the heat kind of got to him. And he had his crew who wasn't that happy to be there. And so here's my dog, Bella, right? And you weren't supposed to have a dog. And when the cops met Bella, and when the petty bureaucrat who wanted to throw just want to close it down and throw everybody out, and he brought the police with him, the girls got the police on our side. Bella won everyone over, and the mean bureaucrat, talking about, the government. No one trusts the government. That's the person that no one trusts. He was a dog guy, and he goes, well, first he said, dogs aren't allowed, and Bella just went over to him and said, hey, what's up? And then homie came up and, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. So here are here are the boys. So here's our friend Mr. Disney, and here are his boys, and you can tell this guy's not that, he wants to be at a rock and roll festival. He doesn't want to be doing this. And so there's something we pulled off with no money, with no real connections. I mean, Eric had connections, and Will had the name, Will I Am, and I had the shamanic juice, right? Three Musketeers. Now, I want to bring that, not those guys, but that event, because that event wasn't those two guys and me. That event was everybody else, because all the highfalutin, people that Will brought, who expected to be paid, right? They left when they found they weren't going to get paid, and there was no hotel for them to stay in, blah blah blah. And the real people who came and paid their $100 for the show, to be there for the event, they're the ones who did all the work. They're the ones who helped that lady make all the food. They're the ones who went off and did shopping and brought the food back from, they went because they came from that neighborhood, and they knew the organic farmer guys. And so, I mean, it was like just kismet, right? So here we are, and we are being totally racked on this one.
Of independence. Disaffection, disillusionment, what's the word for it, and how do you fix it?
Well, look, I think it has to do with partisanship in the media they consume. If you look beyond some of those top-line numbers and consider the fact that, since the year 2000, Republicans have held the White House for 12 years, with Bush 8 years, Trump 4 years, Democrats so far only 10 since the beginning of this century. What are they watching and hearing that make them think
Guys, they are the same guys. They are the corporate oligarchy, the unipolar power structure. You wanna have a better world? This is the better world. Doing ceremony. And look at this sweetie. She's in state. She's seeing all the spirits, and her cohort is bringing it about. And people, oh, what are they doing? That's nothing real, blah blah blah. I believe in what I believe, and that's what's real. Not really. I'm sorry. No, love is the only thing that's real, and that's what made that event happen. Love, you know. So, out there in dreamy dreamland, all of you adepts, all of you cadre, all of you who watch the show and just play it on the background like wallpaper, which is, I hope you do it, because that's, a lot of you do that. You don't watch it, you just let it play, and while you do your dishes and, do your homework, and, that is what I had in mind, And again, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for sending me things to PayPal. And from now on, when you send something to PayPal, just say it is for a friend, right? A gift for a friend, not for a service. This isn't a transactional. I mean, that's other religions. Put money on the plate. I went to a church nearby me, and they have a really nice little church. I mean, air conditioned, super duper metro, media, on the internet, blah blah blah, and they're a church of prosperity. That's what they call themselves. And I went to Bible class, and I listened. I didn't say anything, and I basically said, "What is the good news?" That was my, after everyone had been reading the Bible and talking this, quoting the Bible, the lady who ran it, looked at me and said, "So you're new here. You haven't said a word. What do you got to say?" And I said, "What is the good news?" And I threw everyone for a loop. And I said, "The good news is that Jesus Christ came here to show by his example that we are not sinners, that we are the deciders, that we are the image, and we were made in the image and likeness of the burning bush." "You mean God?" "No, the burning bush." Well, I said, "Well, the burning bush came to, Moses, and when Moses said, 'What's your name? Who are you?' He said, 'I am who I am.'" And no, he didn't say that. He said, "I am work in progress, and you are the reflection of my work in progress. You are all our relations," meaning Homo sapiens sapiens and everybody else. All of the warm and cold-blooded, the furred, the winged, the feathered, the scaled, the skinned, all are our relations. All the bacteria, the viruses, the plants, they're all our relations. And we have to treat them with respect and love. But we don't. We see them as commodity. We see people as commodity. That is exactly what is going on in Ukraine and Yemen and every other place that the war is going on. And there's wars, hundreds of wars all across the world, because it's making money, because it's basically keeping the empire, Anglo-American unipolar empire. And Russia is part of that. Vlad is reading the script. People, what are you talking about, man? No, Vlad is not he is, the poster boy of evil incarnate. We needed, we got rid of Saddam, we got rid of Bin Laden. We needed to, we need someone to fill that space. We needed a poster boy. That's Vlad, right? And then it'll be the other Vlad. This is the war of the two Vlads, the Vlad who's a stand-up comedian in the Ukraine, and the Vlad who is the, body dysmorphic chump of Russia, right? He's just been a bagman his whole friggin' life. So he just does what he's told. What person in their right mind would start this war? There is no upside for Russia, right? Russia has all the cards, has all the resources, has all the oil, the gold, you name it, they got it more than anybody else. Right? Some people have a little of this, a little bit, the morons over in Saudi Arabia, they got a lot of oil, but Iraq has a lot of oil, and we had the war to take that oil away from Saddam, and also we wanted to cordon off that neck of his property where all of civilization started. And there's some heavy duty technology. 1991, we went into Iraq, not because he went into that little country on the side, which was his country, meaning that had been part of Iraq. And the CIA split it off so they could do side angle well drilling and get the oil without having to go through Saddam, because he's starting to be a problem. First, hey, he was the best thing sliced. Well, yeah, he's a oligarch. He runs, dictator, right? But he's our dictator, right? And he's going after the Iranians, who were our dictators before he was, right? So I mean, Iraq was they were developing a democratic republic, and he went in the early 70s, and basically he was a colonel or a major, and he just went in there with a bunch of guys and started shooting legislators in the head, right? Kind of what January 6th was supposed to be, but that was more a soap opera, right? So and these theatrical events in Congress, these hearings are just that. It's like, come on, guys, wake up. This is what we need to choose, right? This is what we need to choose. Grandma's Council, helping to bring up the, giving them a good example. Not what is the good example we're getting in front of us? There is none, right? So. There's two of you now. I'm going to go see what's on the lunch menu. I just had breakfast, which was quite good. Yum, yum. Apple butter. Yum, yum. Right back. Hold on. Come up with some thoughts. I want to hear some things. What do you think of those photos? You gotta get up or I start to rust.
Thank you.
Took your flight.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So Grandma always said that you should start your meal with dessert. I'm going to end it. And they have creamsicle pie. Mmm. So, so like I said, I'm like the little feather in Forrest Gump's worldview, right? And this other thing, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, that is corporate control, feeding you fear. So you'll do whatever they say. No. Meaning I have very little of, and when you don't have anything, it makes you very grateful for what you do have. The Gump principle, yes. And so, like I said, this is, I have very little time. I mean, I wake up, I don't go on and on how sick I am, how miserable, no. I wake up in screaming pain. I can barely see. I can barely, do you see me getting up here, This is, and so Eric, what I loved about Eric is that he was, like me, stuck in the corporate world, right? And so this guy, I misspoke. This guy was a guy who wanted, he had gotten $1,000, and he wanted another $4 before he even started, right? And he had no anything to cook with, and Eric was like again tripping and going, "Oh yeah, he's really good." I said, "No, get out." Do it. And I just, gave him a cold reading of what a scumbag he was, and I don't want to be told. And then, so here we, and I made Will, Will said, "I'm Will, I am. I don't have to test." I said, "No, you want this thing to go? You have to." The police and that guy who left said, "You have to take it because you're the one who put it up." He paid, he took half the money that they received to rent this thing, right? So he had to take it. I helped him in my meager way because, man, I was way more messed up than I am today. And so he had to take it down. I said, "This is a good spiritual." And so both Will and Eric saw me as their spiritual teacher. That's, Will is like, "Oh, I'm Will, I am." Right? And so that's a view of the edge of the park. And there's the hood, right? So instead of this,
that elections aren't free and fair. We've had Republicans control.
Look at that!
I'm going to bring you a fork.
That would be good.
And they are winning elections. So I really don't understand how this can be anything other than misinformation and disinformation coming from the
How can it
media.
be? It's simple. People realize they're dissatisfied with what they want. This, but to get this, thank you, sweetheart. To get this, you have to be willing to do that. Everyone just wants to be fed, taken care of. And that's not how it is. Ooh, look at this. Ooh, look at this. Ooh, look at this. I couldn't. I said I want some vanilla ice cream on this. Really? It's creamsicle. Yeah, but it's really creamy. So the ice cream is that coldness, the real coldness. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. Yum, yum, yum.
Yeah, go ahead.
Incredible. And the one thing I see, I'm old enough. I'm in my 70s. I've been around doing this, for a long time. A good, since the 60s, good 50 years. At least. And I found that when things are really uncomfortable, the 70s, everybody, New York City went bankrupt. I came back from Europe, no place to live, and half of New York City, all the rent-controlled apartments I used to sublet, had gone abandoned. The landlords just walked away. Because the state couldn't pay, the Section 8 check. And so, New York City fired, they had 30,000 cops. They fired 18,000 of them. And the rest of the cops didn't do anything. So crime went through the roof. Because half the crime was being done by the police. Because I remember one time, I worked with a company. Yeah. We would go, a business, let's say, had a fire, right? And it damaged the building, right? And what fire people did, they were really good at putting out fires. They would cut a hole in the roof, and their ladder truck that had the big nozzle, point it straight down that hole, dump million gallons of water down there, pretty much put all the fire. Then the guys went in with the tanks and figured out what was safe, what wasn't. Put this out, put that out. And then we would go in, put plywood on that hole that cut in the roof. Most of the windows were broken out. We put plywood on the windows. And my job as an electrician was to, because the firemen, what they did was they would just get up on a ladder and clip the wires, right? From wherever Edison, the power was coming in from Edison. And that was it. So everything was dead. Or they would go down there and just pull the fuses or whatever, but they would kill everything. And I would go down there and I would, I had my hard hat with my miner's hard hat. And I would suss out what was good, what was bad, what was, needed to be disconnected. And I would then put up string of temporary lights and power. So we secured the building. Right? So there was a racial riot, and up in the South Bronx, right kind of where the South Bronx meets where the rich people are. I forgot the name of that neck of the woods. And of course, the South Bronx is where the rich people used to live, because it's up there in the hills. It was cooler tonight. It wasn't like Manhattan. That was like a boggy mosquito death camp. So we went up there. Westchester, that's the place. There's the Bronx here. South Bronx, Westchester. And so we went up there. The fire was over, and the cops were there, and we showed up. And the cops, it was a Sears that the people went after, and they had, you know, they didn't mean to start the fire right off the bat, but they did. So they didn't quite ransack the thing. I mean, the fire went up, and the firemen were kind of there. So putting out other fires, and so this is, Sears. So that's like corporate role takes precedent over John Q. Public. So they put the fire out, and we were there to patch the hole in the roof and put ply up on the windows. And I was there to check out the electricity, so what worked, what didn't work, get it to a place where Sears could come in and either move everything out. But anyway, we get there, and the cops are there, and this is when there were only 11,000 police when there used to be 30,000, and the cops are there in their cop vans and trucks, and they're taking everything out: televisions, refrigerators, you name it. They're taking it, clothes, everything they're taking out. And the mob is there too, and they're taking what they want. And we show up and we're looking at this, and like this cop goes, hands me a TV, take this. I don't want to take that, that's stealing. Take it, or you're gonna go to jail. So we had to take what they gave us, so we would be implicated along with that, right? But this was in the days of the burgeoning individual person having a VCR camera. And this guy had a beta cam. And he, because we work for insurance companies, would videotape everything. And he had this one small camera that was hooked up to his beta recorder, and he had it on his truck. So he would drive into the scene, driving in, he would capture, and he had a little microphone. So we're hanging out by the thing, and we got the cops, dead to rights on beta. Hey, take this. We don't want it. That's stealing. Take it, or you're going to jail. I said, so you want us to take that, so we're implicated in your mass theft. That's right. Just when we're ready for you, we'll call you. Do you want anything else? You want a refrigerator? So he loaded stuff onto his truck. I needed a refrigerator, so that wasn't bad. I needed a TV, that wasn't bad, but I didn't take it, and we got them dead to rights on beta, right? So, and we showed that to the insurance company, and so the insurance company didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And so, and I also got an air conditioner. All of those, I was living in a tent down in the park, in the Battery Park, down in the most southern point of New York City, where the Staten Island ferries are. So and the graphs have gone up, and you have to realize, so the park is kind of a shape like this. And if you ever saw Men in Black, the scene where their offices is underground, this big aluminum building. That building does exist, and that building is said to be a big ventilator shaft for the Brooklyn Tunnel. Because the Brooklyn Tunnel is right there from the West Side Highway, and after your drive, go into that tunnel and go to Brooklyn. So, there's unbelievably obvious, gigantic fan on two sides, one sucking air in, one sucking air out, and or blowing air in, however you look at it. So, anyway, so and I living, so there's this park, and the aluminum buildings over here, the Staten Island Ferry buildings here, and West Street and Water Street come together, and Pearl Street goes up and goes into Wall Street. So that whole lower part is the Wall Street area, right? And when I lived there weren't too many tall buildings. Now it's like, forget about it. And so, and the biggest of all the buildings is Deutsche Bank. It's like they want to show off the Nazi banking. Well, we pie is good. So I had my little dome tent, and so the grass had grown up like 8 feet high because no one they were broke, so no one was mowing the lawn, and so this park was a small little park, and it came in from 4 different, Water Street, West Street, Pearl Street, Wall Street, and another street. They had this park, and that's where people could go have their lunch, and there were about 6 of these. They came in paths that wound themselves, and there between these paths were plots of grass that had cast iron fence around it, and lights, street lights, and so I and they were mercury vapor, and so and one of them, they all had doors on them with a padlock, right? And so I picked the padlock and put my own padlock on it, and I had my little side because just up the street near Chambers Street there was a nursery. I mean, real kind of like suburban nursery that sold, gardening tools and plants and all kinds of stuff. So I went to that guy, and I'd known that guy. I fixed lots of things. So I used to live on Duane Street, which it kind of cornered on. And when it was really hot, I would go over there because he'd have his sprinklers going on all the time, and there were park benches around because his little nursery was like an island between Chambers, Varick, and Hudson and Duane. And I would go and sit in my underwear late at night when it was super hot and just sit in it, and it would come. And I remember one night I was sitting out there in my underpants and I was pretty stoned, and this cop comes over and looks at me from the other side of the street, and he's sweated all the way through his uniform, right? So he takes off his stuff, his big belt and that, and he kind of leaves it right outside the right, and he comes and he's just wearing his shirt and his pants, and he's taking his shoes and his socks off, and he sits down next to me, and it's like over him, and he goes, "I see why you're sitting here. This is pretty good." "That's right, officer." But he goes, "You're in your underpants." I said, "So, you're going to be in your underpants soon." And he goes, "What do you mean?" "Well, those pants, polyester, going to get wet. They're going to start riding up your crotch like you can't believe." I mean, I was sitting out here in clothes. Look at my clothes, are right over there. And then it just got more and more uncomfortable. And before you knew it, that cop was in his underpants sitting next to me. Now here's 2 guys, one guy with a crew cut, one guy with really long hair, and we're just talking away. And so he's, he goes, "So do you like to smoke marijuana?" I said, "Yeah, when someone offers it to me, I'll take a puff." So he looks around and he goes, "Come over here." So he comes over there and he takes out this little thing, and he's got a blunt, and we get out outside of it and we smoke that, and that was some good Chiba. We went back in our underpants and watched the sunrise, and that was George, Officer George, and this is when police had precincts and they walked around and knew the people in their precinct. So where I lived was part of my, his walk. And he one day, I came out from because I had the key for the lock, the door opened, and I made a path that was circuitous, so you couldn't just look and see my campsite. And from the the street light, I took out the capacitor that was running the mercury vapor lamp and put in a way lower capacitor, and so it was 1/10 the brightness. It was still went on, but it was 1/10 the brightness. And I had a cable going into my tent, and I had my TV, my refrigerator, my hot plate, and my air conditioner, all thanks to the New York City Police Department and Sears in my little tent. And I lived there for all that summer. Anyway, George one day was walking around, and he saw me suspiciously go in and disappear into the grass. And then he just kind of stayed and watched, and then he went over and looked. There was a wire there. He knew I was an electrician. And so anyway, the next time he met up, I just said in that one hot day, he goes, "So you're living in the grass down in the park?" I said, "Yeah, how do you know?" He said, "Well, I kind of, that's part of my beat." And I was in the, it's like about to walk in the park. I saw you just kind of open that lock and disappear into the grass. And I said, "Yeah, well, that's where I'm living." He goes, "Yeah, I know. I kind of, you left and you didn't lock it. And so I opened it up and went in there." He said, "Man, you have one nice of a sweet thing." He said, "I unzip your tent. There was like a freezer in there." I said, "Yeah, I keep the AC going all the time. It's a lot nicer to just walk into a cold place and to have to wait for it to cool down." And so, didn't even blink, right? He goes, "You think I could maybe, vacation there every now and then?" I said, "Sure, George, not a problem. I have other places to go." He goes, "I thought you did." That's when I started to, investigate living in abandoned buildings. Let's see. Way to go. Jazz nuts, yes.
That's good to know.
Yes, for a straw. Let's see.
Yes, you should do protein first. That's what I'm supposed to do too. Is my protein first.
Watching, haven't heard from that revolting expression for decades. You wouldn't work in Bethesda by chance? Nah, I'm just Jen put so much. Yep. So so here we are at a very interesting time. We can either get the band together and bring the alternative aesthetic online, or just, do you want, we're going to have nuclear war, we're going to have more pestilence, more famine, more economic collapse, but it's not like we haven't had it before. And, every time it happens, I learn to navigate it. And this is one of the best things for yummy things. Plate, little last bit. And that is why my first wife called me the best lesbian she ever knew. Anyway, so, and sometimes when I see all of this,
to be Fox News and some other websites that tilt very strongly to appeal to conservative voters. And when you look at ideology on the people who say government is rigged against them, it's not only highest among conservatives, 66%, but when you look inside the data a bit, you're going to see it's very high among white men. The group that most sociologists and analysts would say are the people who benefit the most in society, but for some reason,
White men feel, because the demographics is changing. White men are impotent. They're not reproducing, you know? And, demographics is within 10 years, 80% of the American public is going to be Black, Hispanic, and people of color and women. So all of those morons who, like Mitch McConnell, right? Joe Biden, Donald Trump. These are all white men that are useless pieces of murder. What did Donald Trump do except, the art of his deal is to go bankrupt and stick it with the loss with everyone else, and he walks away with the money, And that's what he's doing to, that one legislature thing he did was, give a $20 trillion tax write-off for the highest 4% in America and the corporate structure, right? And then gave them the, God-given Supreme Court right of having corporations have all the justification of individual citizens, and being able to give as much money to the criminal legislatures without even saying who gave it or how much. Yep. Wade to go. I am the truth bringer. Yep. Well, bring that truth, Wade. And so, gang, like I said, 4th of July is in 2 days, and I wouldn't doubt that the aliens will land on the front lawn of the United Nations. Another, amazingly, I worked there. I helped start a NGO in the early 70s called Alternative Technologies, and then made it into an entity called the Institute for Aesthetically Adept and Appropriate Technologies. And all of the esoteric occult folk there, love that. I mean, they wanted me to join, that scene from, Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, you're our boy, we need young blood like you. You are smart. You are this, you are that, you are. And, my thing isn't so much money. I've been brought up around wealth my whole life and realized that it's useless. It's worthless. I went to school with the richest people in the freaking world. The Shah of Iran's son, Joe Kennedy, Robert Kennedy's middle son, was my roommate, right? And he would get on my kids. Why are you reading all these books? And I said, oh, it helps me. Well, I'm a Kennedy. I don't need to read books. I mean, it's like, really? Okay, good luck with that. And it did not make him happy. Before Robert was whacked, he came to, Parents' Weekend one time. And he freaking, he was in Massachusetts. He could have driven there real easy, about an hour and a half drive. But no, he took a helicopter and had, a Bell, Arrow, whatever, his turbine race car helicopter landed on, because it was, on the putting green, right? Just because he could, right? And he was a jerk, Now Robert Kennedy, just like his brother, kind of got touched by the realization of where he was, what he could do, and he was going to try and do it. So he did it. But that wasn't what he was brought up. That wasn't his first predilection. Yeah, power goes beyond race, right? And power and it goes beyond wealth. Wealth is just a tool. That's why I say I live like a millionaire on $400 a month, because it's really irrelevant. It's your spirit that counts, and it's everyone thinks they're a bag of water. Everyone thinks their soul. No, a bag of water is just an avatar. Your soul is the server bringing the information up to your spirit, which is on the other side of the hallway from your Akashic record, right? It's in your sanctuary your own choosing, you know, your superconscious mind. Just playing with your favorite troll. uh, yes, they don't want what I say probably, but they don't stop me, and that's okay because I'm dropping, just like that lady did. This is me, right? And this is why, this is me, right here. This is me. This is what I do. I'm that little, she's holding me. I'm the little pebble she's dropping into the pond and sending the waves out. Because this pond is where all the spirits were underwater. At night, they would walk out. And some people they would like possess and do things to, and other people they would protect, right? And so, our, you know, I mean, they surely protected this one. The lady who did our food. And she's smiling because this is, you know, she's put out a whole bunch of energy and food and money. I hadn't collected anything for her, but after this, I saw how beautiful she was and how loving she was and how generous she was. That's when I got a bucket. She had a bunch of these buckets. I said, "Can I borrow this?" And I went around, and after I went around, it was $4,000 in there for her. I said, "Here you go." Right. And these guys too, you know, they were the only ones of the groovy new age crowd, and because they were real, because they were doing early in the morning, they were doing so. You know, this poor guy. So he wanted to do the right thing. He was a happy guy, but the spirits kind of knocked him down. Now I was heavier than he was, and I was bouncing around doing all kinds of stuff, and not really. But these guys, like, look at this guy. He's at something that could have changed his friggin' life. Now that guy was just getting into doing, I wanted it. So this whole thing, this event, went out to billions of people on the World Wide Web. It was a live event for 4 days, right? 24/7, right? And it was, then, putting all that information on the website. Right? So, won't last long, right? Well, it is what it is, right? So, and these people couldn't believe that they were getting 3 amazing meals a day. It wasn't not like part of the contract. We were supposed to bring their own food, and they were getting the most amazing organic vegan food that was like tastier than you could believe, and they were just couldn't believe it. They were just looking at it, going, "Really, for free?" You know, this is all Rainbow Down there. But this lady, like I said, she was a shrink, more PhD. She was like I'm double doctor. She was like doctor to the 5th power. Really brilliant and part of every kind of entity there ever was about psychotherapy and paranormal psychology. And this girl is a Celtic crone, and they were sisters within minutes. This is the kind of love that has to, if we want a world that works, this is it. And again, here's 3 generations of women that don't even know each other that became sisters, because they were real. They weren't like the other models. And again, so this guy, he was one of the speakers, but I mean, look at him. He's not even looking at the food and seeing how, and look at everybody else. They're going, "Wow, look at that food." This guy's like, unconscious, right? And he's supposed to be part of the woke. And this guy was awake. He was a gangbanger. And look at this guy. He is just loving what he is experiencing, especially the old ladies giving him a lot of attention. And he couldn't believe that those old ladies were so hot. Oh, yes. So here's those folks doing yoga at sunrise. So I was there doing it because I knew this girl from back in the day. So that's, so we can either try to be the controlling mofo and be all that in a bag of chips. Oh, there's the magic artist. Is there any record of this online? I don't know. I mean, that was 2011. I mean, we had a website. We had it really well documented. We had cameras everywhere, all going onto the website. It was all digitized. I don't know what Will did with any of it. Pretty much when I left that event, I mean, I saw Eric and Will a couple more times, but they were back, doing things at the Hard Rock with the snooty, rich, new age folk that were woke, but not awake. And I basically went back to the neighborhood where that park was and hung with the OG and all those guys. And they were like changing for the better, realizing they could do good things for their community rather than rip them off. And that whole year I spent with her. And who wouldn't, I'm like 60 something in this picture. Let's see, 2011. So I was like, 61. So we're 61 or 59, one or the other. But anyway, she was like 32. So I'm at least 20 years older than she is. And she just thought I was the it, right? And she goes, you're like my sister. You're like my brother. You're like the lover I've always wanted. Yeah, who wouldn't want to be with that? And then to not just be hanging out with her, but her mom, who was like, she wasn't even stepping on the ground. She was like walking on air. And her sweetie was, totally, here's a Shinto monk who knew my master. And to see this guy, Mr. Disney, I mean, he really, for the first 3 years, well, he was a different guy. He was amazing. He was elevated in ways, and then the dark side kind of grabbed him. And like I said, these guys were in the hierarchy, but I knew her from the old days in New York. And this guy was a Marine that didn't want to do anything. So he got into yoga because he got blown up a couple of times. And look, he's still in pretty good shape. And they were great. Yes. So who wouldn't want to hang out with these girls? So we went around doing events, not so much big wig as this, but more like flash mob kind of spiritual moments for, all through that into 2012 and then into the Rainbow Gathering. That was right by me in Tennessee. And that was, then 2 years later, and I was with them, but I was still working for the lawyers and, eating, living. So I had this 2 things going on there, this unbelievable paranormal, alternative aesthetic going on here with ladies of great ability and these moron corporate lawyers. Right? And you know, I was that year, 2011, 2012, 13, 14, I worked no more than 4 or 5 weeks a year and made, close to 70 grand, right? And because I had made so much money before, that looked like I was always having a loss. So my good, you know, um, accountant was legally taking every advantage, So I felt like I was part of BP. So anyway, here we are, just like we've always been at this most amazing time where whenever you feel that sense of deja vu, I mean, we are now living in 24/7 deja vu, right? So if the aliens don't land on the 4th of July, that means if you ever seen the movie They, right? Then, Carpenter's film, maybe they live, maybe, anyway, where the aliens are running everything in business suits, right? Well, they are those guys. And so it's, very, very, very interesting situation, right? I mean, it's same as it always was. There is no difference. This is what's going on. Sorry to break it to you, but you know, um, our lives are ours. We are the deciders. We get to decide. So here, I'm going to read you something. This is my final novel of X-Rated. So the name of this book is Death to Ego's Lie. It is nothing. 7/4/22. The day they landed, prime time. Death to Ego's Lie. It is nothing. Is the 9th book, the 5th in the series of X-Rad's series. Death is not the villain of our mythos of X-Rad's. Reader, have you parsed the golden fleece of all our relations? What is all our relations' story? Why are we here? Who made us? X-Rated is more than a story of all these questions, for this story is all our relations' griot mythos story. What is a griot story? A story that needs to be heard, is something that the listener shares with the griot or the teller of the story. And here we are at the end of our series, X-Rated. Reader, what do you think you've gotten so far out of the water that I am pouring? If you are reading this, you must have read the other 4 books. A good deal of it is repetitive because it is a story that needs to be heard. And how often a listener needs to hear the story more than once? How often have you been told as a child the same grim fairy tale, grandma's petty gray life of sorrow and self pity, and then forced to repeat? It is as a bad meal undigested, for you did not really hear it. Here is a personal prayer that my master gave to me, and I give to you. In every day and every way, let me, as the all our relations, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger in love's co-creation, where we realize that our life is not about our ego meat puppet self of how I am going to pay the bill. What keeps me on my path of doing my best in my little adventure that Bob put me on as the lucky bastard, the little feather, the alpha and omega of the Forrest Gump frame worldview, where we are the we and me. We are not individually exceptional, for we are only the reflection of the we and me as the burning bush, work in progress. I know I am as perfect as Bob made me, as my I am spirit of love's co-creation. I am not perfect. I am my actions. I am not perfect in my actions in this ego meat puppet illusion world of the golden rule. Those who have the gold rule. Most days of the tomorrow and tomorrow, I am a moron. I use my conscious intent to do my best. I don't try, I do. I am not perfect in my actions. As I said, I am a moron 40% of the linear illusion experience. Through my conscious intent, I learned that I am the decider, and that is what we are here to work on. There is no finish line. We are not put here to amass a mercantile empire, to buy our way into the gated community of heaven, to retire into transhuman virtual reality of eternal safety from our bills. I was born with a shamanic worldview of living to love, to serve, to live in love's co creation as all our relations, we and me. It took me years to realize that most folk did not understand this worldview of Bob as one love, where we are the AOR, or all our relations, in one love, as the we in me, the decider of Bob's work in progress and love's co creation. And so say we all. I will do my best to be love's one love in co creation's work in progress. What more can I say? Wake up, wake up, wake up, moron. My writing is not cathartic comedy, where tragedy plus time equals enlightenment. My stories inform your spirit to be love's decider of one love's co-creation, for that is all there is. The lost years of imperial bread and circus. When I stopped self-medicating, doing drugs, I thought, how am I going to relate to these everyday holidays of unsustainable mass consumption without doing drugs? Then I remembered I have died 7 times. Our family has been doing LSD forever. They see it as reality. Love's co-creation does not see it. For one, love is it. Our mother, since she was 0, she is now forever a motherfucker. Each tomorrow and tomorrow, she has smoked a carton of cigarettes and consumed a gallon of cocktails. Why can't she remember just anything? Because she does not want to. And that is a family trait. When I say family, I speak of the species of humanity. Everything is just a metaphor. There is no imperial family trait better than any other. We all treat each other like the other when we think of our ego self as imperial. The litany of excess and violence. Can we be heroes just for one day? Why can't I remember just that one thing in any way? Magnify, sanctify, what is that holy name? Vilify, crucify in the human frame. A million candles burning for a love that never came. You want it darker? We will kill love's flame. How many are ready for the Lord? Your question, who can I blame? It is written, and it is not some idle claim. You want it darker? We will kill love's flame. We are the glory, and you are the shame. If you want it darker, we will kill love's flame. You struggle with your demands. They are so middle class and tame. If you don't like the game, we will let you out of the game. But you are being lined up. The guards are taking up their aim. You had permission to murder and maim. You want it darker. You will kill the flame. Thoughts of Leonard Cohen. So that's the entry into my fifth novel that's going to tie up all the others. And, there is, let's see, the first one, where is number one? Yes. First one is called, eh, first one is called Ear Hairs Anthology, right? And the second one is Broken Girl, Hot Pants, Black Widow. Third one, Legends Anthology. Fourth one, Legacies Anthology. And the fifth one is Death to Ego's Lie. It is nothing. So that's, I hope that got into your feed there. I hope you all heard that. I hope you got that. So I'm going to leg off here. How much? I only got 12% of my battery here. So I'm going to say, see you later, gang. Bob. Independence Day weekend. Yes. Hey there, Jane. Jane, did you just hear me reading my last few pages? My first pages of my fifth novel. Did anyone hear that? Can I have a thumbs up on what I just read you? Born to Hunt. Just tuned in. Okay, Janie. You doing okay? I'm about to bop off. I got about 12 minutes of battery left here. I don't like dying while I'm live, so I'm going to just say I love you guys. We'll rewatch. Yep. Okay? And maybe tomorrow I might come back. So you stay well. Be good. Okay? Okay. Love you guys. You're the best. And again, anybody wants to send me anything in PayPal, you can. You just have to say you're sending it to a friend. Don't say that it's a service or anything. This, I do not charge for what I do. But if you want to send me a gratuity, I'm happy to receive. Right? So, because they started sending me all this tax stuff. Oh, you have to apply for blah, blah, blah. No, and it's like, I live on like $7,500, $8,000 a year. That's like 800 times below poverty. Right? But I live like a millionaire on $400 a month, So I love you guys. You stay well. And keep rewatching this. Make comments, more thumbs up, get more people to subscribe. Come on. Let's take this on the road. Janie, you want to go on the road? Let's take this on the road. You and me on the road, we could have some fun. You got a car that works, that gets pretty good mileage. Anyway, Janie, where do you live? Get a hold of me, Jane, at thedudeawake42@gmail. Anybody wants to talk to me off the YouTube, thedudeawake42@gmail. I'd love to hear from you. I hear from a bunch of you. You guys are the best. Catch you later.